Hi, welcome to another episode of
Hard Take or Big Take.
I'm Aaron. I'm Nicholas.
And together we're an education lifestyle podcast where each week we take a topic, we discuss it, and at the end of the day decide whether or not the topic is interesting, which is
Hard Take,
or frustrating, which is
Big Take.
right. So for today, most recently there was this Channel News Asia article, I think in Straits Times also it appeared, that said that the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development ran this teaching and learning international survey. So just for a little bit of background, the OECD, or this Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, right, is the body that actually runs the PISA test. So this is the international test that all the students take to see how proficient the students are at like different aspects such as math, reading, and science.
Yep.
Right. So they conducted a survey for teachers now instead. There are some interesting results which I'm pretty sure that you guys have learned of already, which is that Singapore teachers work third longest hours within a week. So Singapore teachers work a total of 47.3 hours a week. Whereas this is behind Japan, which is I believe at 55 hours a week, which to me sounds insane.
Okay.
And New Zealand, which is 47.5 hours. Okay, which is
just
not
a
just
smidge
just a smidgen difference. Right. And I think when you actually contrast this with the PISA scores, I believe I was just doing a quick scan of the PISA scores, the most recent one. I think the results really show I think the number of hours that you put in as the teachers, right, it correlates to the PISA scores, because I believe Singapore top everything for math. Okay, then I believe Singapore also is amongst the top for both math and science and reading also actually. So I mean, sure, we get good PISA scores, but at what cost, right?
Yes.
So what is the human cost? In the past few weeks, there's been a lot of attention that's been thrown to our
Education minister.
Education ministers and teachers have been thrown into the limelight to ask ourselves like, hey, are we really overloading and overworking our teachers? What do you think, Nicholas?
I feel like this conversation is since time memorial.
Yes.
Since time memorial. So it's nothing new. It's just that with this particular survey, there is quantitative kind of a measurement, and then you actually you pit it with your other peers from other countries, and then I think just a little bit behind New Zealand at 47.5 and we're at 47.3. I think it's not so much of a big thing, but the one in Japan I think is really quite extreme.
Yes, it's quite extreme.
The 55 hours. Alright, so I mean, we have all been tuition teachers before.
Yes.
We don't really hold full-fledged experience in schools before per se, but from students who have actually communicated with us, I'm just talking about at the ground, okay? As students that's communicating with us, and some of my peers who are actually teachers that are still in schools, all right, there are a few major, I won't say culprit per se, but there are a few major facade of their job that is apart from teaching. All right, so I'm going to put it out and let's see if you agree with me. Now, one of them is going to be with regards to after work hours consultation. All right, and I think with the connectivity, we had this in some of our episodes way in. All right, teachers, I don't think it's spoken, but I think it's unspoken in a way that they have to be reachable, contactable, and particularly during peak periods, crisis time, like, a few days before examination, national examination, the kids just have a few questions here and there. You just want to be there to answer for them. So this is a little bit unspoken, all right? So, and I think this is not tabulated within the 47.3 hours because this is after work hours, all right? But let's talk about school contact time. All right, definitely we have teaching, all right? Singaporean teachers are, I would say it's not really unique to us, but we do have a additional role of being a CCA in charge. So for those listeners out there, all right, some teachers themselves, depending on their talents itself. So let's say they used to be from Girls Brigade. All right, sometimes they might be called in to be a Girls Brigade in charge instead from there. And I think being an in charge is not just a figurehead where people just report to you the attendance. I think you have to organize, the CCA excursion, and for the case of uniform group, you have to organize going for different kind of parades, getting your team there and going for all the kind of competitions. And I think the next one here is something that we really can empathize is with regards to holding sessions like meet the parent sessions. All right, they call it as graduation day session and all those kind of ad hoc sessions. Some teachers will be roped into various committees. All right, and I think at this point, they have to manage parents, they have to manage students. But once you're roped into various committees, you have to work with your colleagues, which you might not have a lot of contact time. And often they probably will have to stay back after their teaching time to really to get this committee together. What was your experience with this?
I think on top of whatever you said, of course, committee is one thing. Doing the consults and out of class consults, that's another thing. And I don't think it's just consults, right? It's sometimes the parents who like very kanchong parents will try to go and reach out to the teachers to like, hey, do I have to submit this particular form lah? Or why is my child doing so poorly lah? Is my son being bullied? Are you picking on my son? Are you picking my daughter? So there are parents. So I believe school teachers doesn't just have to manage the students, also has to manage the parents. I think it depends on the age group that you're teaching, but generally I think school teachers do have to manage both. But I do know from my friends in the ministry, they do say that when the previous education minister came out and they said like, oh, your teachers are not service providers. We limit the contact hours to these particular times. And guys, please be reasonable when reaching out to your teachers beyond the school contact hours. They are not service providers, right? I think they, my friends in ministry did say that like from that point onwards, right, there was a very big mindset shift lah. And the parents were like I think parents and students are a little bit more empathetic towards the teachers. So there's that. Of course, there is committees as well. So when it comes to committees, I think it's on one hand, I do understand that if you're a teacher, you like to teach, but then you're being roped into this committee, you're being roped into that committee, then it's very annoying. I can see that it's very annoying. But from an organizational perspective, if we don't give the school teachers these roles, right, like how do we earmark those
for leadership?
Yeah, like those outstanding teachers for leadership positions or people with potential for leadership positions, right? So I think it's unfortunately something that there has to be some measure of this, like some amount of this.
So will you say like this kind of committees is like the seat test for teachers?
Yes, exactly.
It's like the
exactly. And it's not just committees, right? It's also CCA.
That. So maybe the committee is a seat test for the teachers, but
I think in the NS context, it's very sterile, right? It's a very artificial sort of test. But whereas in actual school sort of setting, they'll be like, oh, we want to organize this cultural festival for the kids. I arrow this particular teacher to be the overall in charge. The committee chair. It becomes a very real thing for the students and for the teachers as well and for the parents. So I think like it's not a seat test sort of sterile environment anymore. It's an actual real thing that affects the school culture, that affects the school offerings that the school gives lah.
Okay, so my take on earmarking someone for leadership, I feel it should be industry specific. I'll give you an example over here. So let's say I'm a teacher, all right, and how do I exude out leadership will be more of me taking in charge a curriculum. You know, I have mentoring. Right? So I am in my domain, right? But when it comes for using other proxy, like being part of a committee, and I think the matrix of how successful an outcome and event is also very opaque to us outsiders itself. And at the end of the day, I pretty much believe that a teacher still sort of have a supervisor to report to, and that supervisor will be giving the different kinds of grading at each quarter itself from there. So it's more of like, if you want to have leadership, it should be more industry specific rather than having such proxy itself. What do you think about that?
Well, I agree to a certain extent. But I do feel that, let's say for example, if I am I start off a science teacher, right? So my expertise is a physics teacher.
Okay.
So if I be a physics teacher, then let's say I end up taking leadership when it comes to physics as well. So eventually the physics portfolio will expand. Like let's say once I become the physics level head, then I become the physics subject head. So after that, then what? then obviously the next step up is going to become the science
The
level
science
head and the
level head,
science
yeah.
subject head, right?
Yeah.
So, but of course, science doesn't just deal with a single
Yes, you have
subject. You have to rope in the
bio,
lower sec
yes,
science.
yep.
You have to rope in the physics, the chemistry, and the bio. So you're going to have to learn to deal with teachers that are not within your domain of expertise either. So I do feel that on one hand, yes, we do want to earmark people for
Mm,
like domain specific leadership positions.
Mm.
But I do think that things like committee, like they do have a
Mm.
place, I think,
Mm.
in general leadership and management training.
Mm.
I
Okay.
think.
Okay. So I think the importance over here is if someone was to apply for teaching, all right, they will have to go through PDGE and then and that's the postgraduate diploma program for them to be, and they will have practicum to be a teacher and all. You think during the practicum, does teachers under practicum has exposure towards being part of a committee? Or they are really just there to see the whole class management, the teaching process?
I think this one depends on the school, right?
Mm.
So back when I was teaching in the school,
Yep.
so I was involved in a CCA in a very, very small and minor position.
Mm.
I didn't really have to do very much for the CCA per se.
Okay.
But I at the very least I need to oversee. But I can see how, if let's say leading up to competitions, the main teacher in charge, right, will be a little bit more stressed because the main teacher in charge will have to be the one liaising with the coach lah, planning the training sessions, liaising with the club chairperson, okay, the student chairperson,
Yep.
and then seeing how they can organize the training sessions for all the juniors. Okay, so I can see how all of this will eat into your teaching.
Yes.
Your teaching hours as well. And if let's say I when I was back in the school as well, I could see like my colleagues being involved in other committees. And I mean, just for the sake of exposure, I also just sit down lah.
Okay.
Okay, in some of these of these meetings.
So will you say that it really
So-
takes out a huge chunk of them leading up to very peak periods of the CCA? And do you think this will affect their... I'll still want to be a bit more naive, but I think that their primary task is to educate and to teach, right? Do you think
Yes.
it takes that part away from them?
Yeah, yes, I would say that it's about half-half.
Half-half.
That was the impression that I got at the very least for my colleagues. So I feel that again it's about half-half.
Half-half. I'll take a segue over here. And there is also this other extent of the job, which is the more on the soft side of the job. Apart from teaching, you have to counsel, befriend the students, and also mentor them. So I feel that befriend, counsel, mentor are three seemingly closely related words, but they all have different kind of aspect to it. So let's just talk about counseling. I will maybe at the very first level think that these are for kids that has troubled backgrounds. All right, or they get into some bad companies, and not only must you be able to identify them and to befriend and counsel them, but you also have to be a little bit techy, because when managing people in a classroom of 40 students, I believe everyone comes from different background. Your mannerism, the way that you go through your syllabus, and the kind of examples that you're picking to teach, you have to be very sensitive, cultural and society background itself from there. And thus, I didn't went for PDG per se, but I don't know if you know of any of teachers who finish through PDG, and there's actually like modules that are assigned, just for these soft skills, sort of like the psychology 101 of students.
I do believe that teachers, that there are like counseling training,
like
there is some
parallel
form of-
counselor.
Yeah, there is some form of counseling training, but I do believe that nowadays there are more and more schools which actually hires proper counselor to see. But I do also understand that not every school can afford this luxury.
Yeah.
I think the school, the teachers themselves can be like the first line of like defense per se. But anything which requires more deep sort of work and more involved like intervention, definitely I don't think the teachers should. I'm not saying that the teachers shouldn't be involved. I think the teachers can be an ally. But it's more of, I think the counselor should be present in order to provide a little bit more direction as to how the teacher should approach this. Because at the end of the day, the teacher is not a counselor. The teacher is there to deliver the content.
Mm.
And I think as teachers, I mean, you and me also, we also encounter students with troubled backgrounds, students with emotional problems. I think for us, it's very easy to like get involved and very easy to think like, oh, I must do something. But I think very often there's only so much you can do lah.
Okay, so I want to talk about this. So we're all tutors here. We have seen
Yes.
I think quite a few thousand of students in our lifetime. So I want to ask you, have there ever been circumstances that you know that a student is having trouble, whether is it the background, whether is it in terms of homework and catching up the syllabus, you want to help this student, you will ask this student to stay back after class, maybe just have a short chat. But the student is just very resistant to any form of penetration of your concern. They're like, no, I don't talk about it. Like, have you ever felt like, I should still continue to try it? And when should you actually throw the towel?
Of course lah. I mean for myself, again, I respect the student's decision, the student's privacy and the student's boundaries. So if the student doesn't want to review more, then I'll be perfectly fine.
Okay.
Not like I won't pursue.
Okay, so I want to throw a spanner into the work to make this a little bit tougher. Okay, so will you think that it's because students nowadays are more well connected in terms of their, I'm just going to use social media as a background. So maybe in our time, let's say we are at that kid's age and we have trouble, we don't really have like an outlet, a very ready available outlet. All right, I want to use this as an example because this is a shout out to my primary school teacher lah. All right, not going to name her for privacy's sake, but I think she has gone over and beyond her JD as a teacher, because till now we're still in contact. Right, so it all begins with her actually trying to. I was very plumb last time, so I was in Tough Club, TAF, Tough Club. So she was my form teacher. She was also my Tough Club teacher. All right, but she is able to connect with me, and I don't know through how. I think she worked her way through. She talked to me after class and all. Then she began to know about my family background. All right, so just a little bit here. My dad is actually, he works extensively in Philippines when I'm young. So it's just me and my mom. All right, my brother. So she understands my mom's trouble because has to manage me and my brother. And my teacher over here, she will always check in on me. And last time we didn't have cell phone. Check in on me will be like after class. She's like, "Hey, Nicholas, how's your mother?"
Yeah.
So it's through all this, and even after I've graduated, I still remember every Thursday, she will text me, and till today, Thursday we will still talk. It's just like a check-in, and this is how many years? I'm 12 years old then. And now I'm 37 years old. So this is
25 years.
25 years kind of a habit. And it's just so natural that this is my friend. But like I say in Chinese, maybe our 八字 match, And because like she must also know when to release and when not to release, whether she should over pursue or not pursue at all. So I feel like maybe in the past, if let's say I have a social media outlet, I might not have forged such meaningful relationship. Else I would just, I don't know, go to Reddit, go to YouTube, go to TikTok, and then maybe I just find videos of people that are in the same circumstances as me, and I sort of like find refuge in knowing that people are like that with me. Yeah. So I feel that when it comes to this particular statement of counsel, befriend, and mentor them, maybe it's me feeling a little bit feeling like it's a one-way street, because the students must also be willing to want to, and I think it's and me as a teacher, if I have a lot of other tasks on hand, I have a committee on hand, and let's say there's 40 students, there's just this one student I really want to talk to because I know something is wrong, but I still got this gnawing in my background, hey, you have this committee meeting you need to rush to. I just feel like it fragments my attention.
But you need to be fair to the other students as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I am sure that the class ratio itself, I do heard of some schools whereby they have the benefit of having a teacher that's there for practicum. So sort of like the class ratio is split into two. So I think that's why, but I think that is a scenario that doesn't happen all the time.
I'm aware that nowadays it's very common for a class to have two form teachers. So I think if let's say one particular teacher, I don't know, if one student wake up with one teacher, then at least there's another teacher, or at the very least, if one teacher is very, very busy with their other work, then there's another teacher that they can reach out to. But I think the problem comes when both teachers are
or Buigam, right?
Buigam, or both teachers are so busy that they cannot keep up with each individual student.
But for the teachers that's listening to this podcast, if there's any out there, I want to let you know that we are tuition teachers, and the students that comes for tuition, right, they still hold school teachers to a very high esteem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like my school teachers' words are the doctrine, and tuition teachers are like, oh, okay lah, we listen if you
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like my. So I think there's still a very high level of respect, for school teachers, and I think being the first layer of how you interact with the students, you play a very pivotal role, and important role in them lah.
I personally found that my time in school is the most fulfilling time like spent teaching. Like even though I know right that the school the students they're not listening to me as much as they do in tuition. The tuition my tuition kids, they listen to me more. I feel they pick up more academic content. But like in school, I can see that like emotionally they are more attached to me as the school teacher. So if they have problems, they'll come and find me. They're more likely to come and find me versus like myself as a paid vendor lah.
Correct.
Right. So I think that that really was quite enlightening, and I really miss my time back in the schools.
But I mean, with all this thing that as a first layer of how we can impress on the kids, I think it still doesn't defray from the conversation that our teachers are. I think they feel a bit overloaded.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some measurements. We also talk about this in some of our episodes about AI usage.
Yes.
Right. So I forgot to mention one of the teachers' biggest mammoth tasks on a weekly basis is marking.
Marking, yes.
Yes. All right. So also setting up material. So I have mentioned in our previous sessions that there are AI tools that the teachers can actually employ to help lessen the workload a little bit. And I think if you have a bit more Kahoot, a bit more Quizlet, those portals are very self-serving, like it marks by itself.
Yes.
Sort of like those kind of interim tools rather than you give worksheet in the past.
But at the same time, it also requires the teacher to go in and then make
to set the paper
and then set the
correct
questions properly. And all this take time.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the implementation of AI will eventually, as it get more and more mature, I think it will eventually assist the teachers. But I think I just also want to say that it can never replace the teacher.
Yes, of course.
Because the emotional aspect and is up there. So there are also other things. In the past, you did mention about parents who don't really respect the boundaries. Text the teacher, hey, my child got this and that and that. Hey, I got a cut here, a laceration here, my work and everything. Like they will actually approach the teachers itself. But even after what minister had said about, hey, please, work for I'm just paraphrasing, please respect the boundaries, right? There are some teachers that still lament that they still have to call parents one for one. All right. And these are for very I won't say trivial things. It's like at D-Day, you need to have this consent form, this before you can go for excursion. But you don't sign, I really cannot bring your child there.
Yes.
This kind of thing, how are you gonna there's still the need for that.
Yes. And I do believe that things have become a lot simpler. It was mentioned in the newspaper articles where chasing consent forms and everything has become easier with the introduction of Parents Gateway.
Yeah.
So for myself also, I use Parents Gateway to keep track of my son. So just to make sure that all the consent forms are in.
How does that work? Do you sign in the gateway?
Most of it is really just going to be forms that you tick off. There are the tick kind, then there's the sign kind. If there's a sign kind, then I believe my son will bring.
So they still don't really accept digital.
There is digital signature also. But it depends because most of the time within Parents Gateway is mostly like newsletter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There are forms every now and then. But I think for this year, my son, not that many. I think there was a CCA form, but I think that one was my wife that signed it.
Okay.
But
so
yes.
apart from the one-to-one calling because of forms like that,
yes,
right, which is quite mission critical. We mentioned about the subject-based bending.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a tricky conversation, but we did means the student finer in terms of their capabilities and have more targeted kind of a syllabus for them.
We could all see this coming, right? Because right from the start when they say that they're going to go full subject-based bending, I wouldn't have said at that time we're going to overload the schools, but yeah, this is exactly what's happening now. The school teachers are stressing over making different lesson plans for different classes at different levels.
Yes.
Right? So that is something natural.
But is the solution to this just get more teachers?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
is
Yes.
this a manpower kind of a
Yes,
issue here?
yes. I believe
You believe
so.
so?
So is like does MOE want to actually invest more money to go and hire more teachers? Or not?
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I don't know, anecdotal, but MOE always say they're short of teachers, right?
Ah.
But then I have a lot of friends who
They
apply.
apply lah. Kena
Yeah, then
rejected
they
lah.
say they either gonna rejected or then they
They get some
relegated
subject.
to some subject that they don't want.
Alright.
So I don't know.
But I think at this case over here, if we see it at the bottom line, this subject-based spending is still very beneficial for students. Right?
Yes.
Because it's still learning at their own pacing.
Yeah,
But in terms of the top line, in terms of the instructors that's required, they're like stretching the teachers a bit thinner, because it's like if you're like the physics head, you have to
but
prepare
I
like
mean,
3 different work plans.
if the teachers are overworked also, they cannot deliver a good product, then also it defeats the
True,
purpose.
but is this more of like a do once, do it good, and don't need to do again kind of thing? Because after the pioneer comes in and means the syllabus into different kinds of bendings,
yes.
then the others will just be repetitive and just following and just
I suppose and previously, if let's say we had stuck with the status quo, right, I believe the teachers' workload, with respect to lesson prep and with respect to making sure that the lesson is conducted smoothly, I feel that it will be less stressful with regards to that, because the old syllabus has been so well researched and well thought out already. But now with subject-based spending, like there are a lot of new things in the past few years, right? First of all, it's the new PSLE system.
Yep.
Then there is the new the full subject-based spending, and then now A levels also there have been some changes in syllabus. All right, then they're going to move Singapore away from the branding it as O levels to the
Singapore-based examination.
Singapore-based examination or something like that. So there's going to be so many changes, and I think part of the reason why teachers are burnt out at this point in time is due to all the policy changes that MOE is rolling out at this point in time now. But yes, like you said, perhaps maybe after a few years things will smoothen out. The same thing with COVID, right? Like before COVID, no one ever
thought of online lessons.
No one ever mentions like video lessons. But it feels that now video lessons is a norm.
Yep.
My son recently had 3 days because of PSLE marking at home. Every day, right, he has to do SLS.
Okay.
And every day there is some sort of...
Was it like a live lesson or is it a recorded session?
So there are some recorded sessions. Some of them latch onto other learning platforms to deliver the video. Sometimes it's just an assignment that my son has to do within the day and then submit. Right? So all of this takes planning, for the teacher to actually conceive of and then upload. Right? So all of these resources, I think after a few years, I suppose teachers can recycle these resources.
Okay, but I wouldn't exactly say after a few years they can rest on their laurels, right?
Yeah, because you have to update the syllabus as well.
And modify and
then when the textbook changes also, and every now and then the textbook will change. I believe most recently the P5 onwards, or rather all the primary school onwards. I think this year P6 was the last of the old syllabus.
Yep.
Now all the primary school, right, is all new syllabus already.
Yes.
Then the school teachers again have to update their entire library and catalog.
But Viren, this is very much like an organization role, right? You have the C-suite, they are doing all the top line planning, and then when you flow down, there will be changes, and there will always be resistance to the changes. But these are unavoidable events. But if let's say now you are a school teacher or even a tuition teacher, and I give you a wish list, let's talk about you as a school teacher. I give you a wish list, okay?
Yeah.
What of your job are you okay to delegate out to someone else to do? You cannot delegate out teaching lah. You still have to teach lah. You're a teacher ma. But now your wish list, you can delegate things out. What would you have done
So you're asking me from if I were a school teacher and then if I have to run all this committee,
CCA, marking, teaching, counseling, befriending, mentoring.
It's hard to say though. I suppose the first thing that does come to mind is the committee, and the next thing will be CCA. But at the same time, I also recognize that these are areas which are actually offer places or a space for professional development. So I don't know, for myself, I'm a very growth mindset sort of person. I think if I can handle the challenge, if let's say my teaching load is still okay, still manageable, I'd be okay still keeping the committee and still keeping like, but I don't know. I'm not a school teacher.
Yeah, but if you say
Who
that
knows?
all these are like for professional development, but don't you feel that this litmus test of how capable you are is time for for an update really in this current time and modern world. And if let's say if a teacher KPI is being based off your how you run your committee, and I don't think there will be such KPI on how many A's you produce for your subjects, because I think that's a bit very superficial. But I feel like it takes away you from the job. Like if this question was thrown back to me as a school teacher, I would number one say maybe the committee I will still be able to be, I'm okay to be in it, because if let's say that committee is like your passion. So I'll give you an example. If let's say you are very passionate about meet the parent session, being a parent liaison with the school and everything, I think that's fine. You can still take on that role. But I was thinking CCA wise, unless you are a subject matter expert, all right, you should not be part of the CCA and having to talk to the coach. So I give you an example. I have this friend. He's from one of these boys' school that's in Bishan. Right. He was an ex softball player from this school. All right. He's a very good
Last time I
softball
was in
player.
school, I was also in softball.
Oh, you're in
Actually,
softball.
I totally don't know how to play softball. Yeah.
Okay. But this friend, he's proficient in softball. So when
Yeah.
he went over to NTU University, it was in the softball varsity, IBP and everything. So he went on to take a PDG. He became a teacher, and he went back to his alma mater. All right, and automatically he was roped into the softball. And he is like a fish in the water, because he knows everything. Because I know how to
That's the opposite story from me actually. Because when I was in charge of the CCA, right, I was in charge of softball. I totally had no idea what softball is like, how it's played. So, but on the other hand, the teacher in charge also used to play softball.
So you can see the difference.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So when I was in JC, I was in rugby. All right. So if for some reason I'm back in school and you ask me to go for a CCA like between rugby and band, definitely I will go for rugby because it's something that's in my vein. You see, from there. Yeah. So I feel like when all teachers in Singapore, all right, I would just believe that they went through the Singapore education, they should be allocated to CCA based off their CCA history, and also the proficiency of them in the CCA itself.
I think what you say is valid, but I do feel that, again, from the perspective of professional development, from the perspective of expanding your experience.
Then you have to try other things.
I think it's good to try other things. Now I know how softball is played, for example.
Okay.
Right. So I think it was a good experience for me.
Then I think counseling work, this one definitely on the delegate.
Yes.
Because if you were to say the wrong thing, use the wrong techniques, and you're not a trained professional, I think being a para-counselor, being a full-fledged counselor, there's a very difference in meaning. It's like a paramedic and a doctor.
Yes.
You will administer first aid, but in terms of diagnosis and in terms of treatment, that you have to leave it to the next.
Yes, exactly.
So I think and with the rise of mental diseases, or even with the greater awareness in mental diseases, I feel like professionals should be brought in. And you did mention that some schools don't have the budget.
Yes.
All right. I think all schools must have the budget. And in fact, they should increase their budget, because I think generally students in Singapore are quite stressed. And okay, this is just a joke aside, but I think the counselors can also help with the teachers' stress also. Yeah, because I think the teachers are also, can you imagine you are a troubled educator and then you're teaching young minds? You might subconsciously just have all these negative sentiments being passed down through your teaching. Can you imagine just in terms of using your example? Then you might use a very negative example. So if let's say you're teaching about oranges and apples using like for plus and minus, you might use antidepressant pills, 10 pills of that and 10 pills of that. But so, it just comes out in your examples, and I think that these are backgrounds and the kind of message you don't want to send to the kids that has very impressionable mind. My next one here is with regards to, this is a bit sensitive, disciplinary cases.
Yeah, of course.
So if let's say classically going for detentions, you have to write like a report and all, and you have to deal with liaison with parents like, hey, today your kid did XYZ, and this is the punishment we're gonna meet out. And I think way before this podcast, there's a lot of there's a article about a kid that was in school that was, I think at this stage here, was being maligned all right, of stealing his classmate items. And after that, there was no contact, and then that kid just actually, committed suicide. I think there was a recent article with regards to that. And I think that throughout all that, the chain of communication was actually very important because the schools decided to do this, had to communicate with the parents, and I'm not sure within that whole chain of communication, do you actually need the parents' permission to go ahead with the punishment that's meted out? And don't forget, you have to rush between classes. And you can't keep checking your phone. Can you imagine you're teaching halfway in the school, you check your phone? I feel like there should be a team on hand to deal with disciplinary cases.
Especially very critical and very sensitive, super sensitive issues like this, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, things like corporal punishment, like caning, I think there's still a lead up to it. All right, but things that requires immediate attention, even like student welfare, students not feeling well, going to the sick bay, need to call parents and everything. I think the teachers should not be the primary.
Yes.
one.
The teachers can say like, hey, I'm gonna leave this in your good hands.
Yes.
Maybe somebody in the general office or whatever.
Exactly. And I think that with this, it makes me feel safer that when I send my kids to school, I know that if problem A, teachers will handle. But when it escalates to problem B, now there's another team that will be handling. And there will be very prompt combinations going with that. All these are wish lists. Okay, so let's change. Now you're a tuition teacher. What's your wish list?
Tuition teacher. I mean, I speak from the perspective of a center owner lah. Okay, so as a center owner, I do feel that there are a lot of other things that, like for example, curriculum planning, and actual going down and then making sure that the material that we create, right? I can set the direction, but I mean, as a center owner now, I want to delegate already lah. Yeah. So making the video collateral, okay. I feel that all of these as a center owner, I will prefer to have time to make executive decisions rather than having to do all of this. But I suppose as a teacher itself, as a tutor,
yes.
Okay, actually, tuition teachers have it a little bit harder, right?
Because
there is no admin team there's no general office team, there's no
general
counselor,
yes.
There's no school counselor, there's no nothing to help you. So as a tuition teacher, actually, we do everything ourselves, right?
Yes.
Lesson prep, we have to do.
Yes.
Marking also we have to do. I suppose for us, science and math is a bit easier because we can tell the students, okay, you go mark yourself. But there's certain aspect where for us as science teachers, we also have to read ourselves.
Yes.
We have to see whether or not the students are using the proper keywords.
Sentence structure.
Yeah, the sentence structure
presentation.
is okay. Yeah, whether or not this is real. And I think now AI can help to a certain extent, but I feel that AI doesn't get I know nowadays AI is pretty good when it comes to context, but not good enough.
Yes.
Right? So I feel that AI can assist, but still not good enough.
Okay, but I feel as a tuition teacher, right, I feel all these aspects that I've just mentioned, while I would like to delegate and just focus on teaching, right? Maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like it differentiates a good and a great tutor. Yeah, like your nuance to the emotions. I have students who withdraw from the center because they do very well. So I think we are like a victim of our techniques.
Our own success. Yeah.
But I have students who withdraw when they do very poorly. And I think that's understood. You want to give another center a try, you want to try another tutor's methodology. I think I understand. But I have students who did very well, but they still stay, who did very poorly, but they still stay, and they don't just stay. They stay throughout the entire tenure of primary, secondary, and even out the JC. So I went on to become friends with these kids. They sent their siblings over. I went on to become friends with their mothers, with their fathers. We even have like tea break together, that kind of thing. And then I asked one of these parents, she's very iconic, I asked, hey, why was it that your kid was actually doing very well already? You could have downsized the tuition and everything. So she said one thing. All right. And this parent was with me at least for 5 years, 6 years already. All right. So that was when she said, oh, that's because when you started the place, all right, you spoke of one sentence to me. Okay, so I was a little bit like what was this very impressionable sentence I mentioned? You just said, your son, okay, I'm not going to say the name here, your son is in my good hands and I will take care of him. She just said, you said that. And she said that you didn't just say it, you also do it. And the son comes back convicted, listen to the instruction. And then after that, the daughter came Alright, daughter also went with other tutors. So she just said, 你那一句话, okay, 我就真的是 trust 你了 from there. So I feel like for me to really to gain her trust, it's not just me teaching well, but also understanding the troubles of the child's learning and also consistently, sometimes on borderline harassment, reaching out to the kid, hey, you do your work already or not? If you know, you better don't know, you better come back.
Yeah.
You know, nothing. So I feel like because we are a paid service provider and our sort of like how well the business does is really down to how the tutors actually.
Yes.
So while I want to relieve my task on all that, I don't like marking, it really takes up my time. I think that the syllabus is done, but we have to keep consistently challenge ourselves to make better, more targeted questions such that the time that the child spends here really is very, very productive itself. And also, reaching out to students. And can you imagine if you have a class of one student, I think it's fine. But when you have a class of 50, your total enrollment for each tutor is like 50 to 60 students. You have 50 to 60 chat group.
Yeah.
You have to manage each nuance and emotion. And I think that, I think that this is what really defines a good from a great tutor. A good tutor will teach well, but a great tutor will go beyond and ring fence the emotion of the kids, the kids' capability, and also understanding the body language of the kids and give them more targeted help from them.
I think the thing about our industry also that really forces the teachers to do more is the fact that we are paid for doing all this.
Yes.
The school teachers,
I will believe that they are paid, but maybe not remand as fairly.
Yeah, I mean this is supposed to be our bread and butter. For every student we earn, for every additional student that we earn, that we gain, we earn more.
Yeah.
Right? Versus the school teacher, they put in a few extra hours, they don't earn anymore. They put in a few they go the extra mile for their students. Okay, they don't earn more. But whereas for us, right, it's a matter of like if this student quits and then goes to another tuition center,
it does hurt.
Then it hurts me.
Yeah.
Right. So there's both a carrot and a stick sort of thing
exactly.
for us as tuition teachers.
And I feel that if we are using school teachers as a benchmark, and they are really a very revered figure. They are very high up on the pedestal. I think that if the kids have exposure to school teacher standard as a additional vendor provider, I have to one up that standard.
Yes, exactly.
And if the school teachers is not going to come down in terms of befriending, counseling, and mentoring, then I have to one up them. I cannot provide something lesser than that.
But I mean, again, like we also have to be aware of our own limits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so as far as counseling is concerned, like for us, we are not trained counselors either. We cannot take on some of the emotional burdens of these students, right? Some of the family problems that these students are facing, we cannot. So I think at some point we have to say like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe what we do is we refer you to somebody who's a professional.
Yep. So I think teaching is otherwise still a very noble calling lah.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I think that as long as we are in this profession, sometimes maybe I think you ever mentioned to me, but sometimes we go back and if we feel like today we did not do our best, we actually get affected. We feel like, we should go from point A to B and detour to C and to D and everything, but today we never really do that because for lack of better word, we have other things that's on our head.
Yes.
I feel like we are still being affected. And I think that is still something that most school teachers now in Singapore will actually feel by it's not being spoken of because they take their work seriously. Right? You don't just come for the sake of the remand. You really want to, you're in this very privileged position of educating the next generation. Okay. All right. So the teacher working hours, maybe if next year they're having one of this survey again, possibly I hope that it will drop after that.
Yes.
Right? And maybe next year at this time, the only thing that I can see perhaps having a more tangible improvement will be AI tools. All right. And I think that can actually help teachers. Maybe next year at this time we do this particular topic again. So William, do you think today's topic is interesting or frustrating? Take or pick?
To be honest, I'm somewhere in between, like on one hand, I see all my friends in the ministry and I mean for myself, for my own tutors as well, right? I feel that we work so hard, right? Sometimes there are results, sometimes there aren't. And I really, really wish that for us as center owners, for the sake of my friends in the ministry, right, that things can be done to improve the lives of teachers, right? So I think it's both big take in the sense of I really I feel a little bit helpless because this is the nature of our job, right? But I also feel that is or interesting because I'm very keen to see like what institutional changes are done,
Mhm.
what technological changes are rolled out to
Mhm.
help teachers in terms of their workload lah.
Mm,
Okay, what about you?
very, very much ditto whatever your thoughts here.
Yeah.
But I'm more on the side of Tatsik. I want to be a bit more hopeful.
Yeah.
I think that 5 years ago, AI wasn't a thing, lah, and no one would ever thought AI would be helping teachers' profession, in their tasks. And I'm hopeful that there are changes. And I want to bring on to say that these changes in any tools that will help elevate teachers' workload is not so the teacher wanna work can slack, but so that we can go back to our core duties of really imparting and teaching. So that I don't have this background task that, hey, I need to handle this and everything itself from there, lah. And for the listeners out there, if you have any comments, if you are teachers, all right, you can share with us some of your troubles, even tuition teachers, right? What are troubles? What do you think are things that can have been done that really improve your quality of life, and ultimately is really to benefit the students out there. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.